So here we're in part B of question 4. And I was just wondering, how do we get information from the children for that KWL chart when we do a project approach?
Well, some basic questions would be like, since we're talking about a pizza project, do you like pizza? Or where do you eat pizza? What kind of pizza do you like? Or how do you make a pizza? And you notice we have listed here some mid-level questions that talk about having a restaurant, starting a pizza restaurant, and some upper-level questions. Know that in your classroom that you could begin to use basic questions or mid-level questions or upper-level questions depending on the children's level of understanding and also their experience with pizza and a pizza restaurant. So think about what you might do. You might have create a recipe book, or you might have something that would go in to a sequence games. What comes first? The crust, and then the sauce, and then the pepperoni. Just lots of things that you could do there.
And that would be logical if you look at question 3 and the children want to know what steps would you take to make a pizza.
That's right, that's right.
And
if the oven
what would you do if the oven didn't work?
work?
So isn't that interesting? You can do so many things. And that's the beauty of a project approach, because it's not something you do in a day or in a week. You can keep on going as long as the children have interest or as long as they want to keep learning about it.
You realize that we're looking at the pizza project that was, it's good to remember that we're resourcing that pizza project that was in Young Children, March 2013, on supporting dual language learners and their families. And let's look at next and see what they learned from that research. What they learned is that social interactions among the dual language learners and English speakers developed from teacher-initiated to child-initiated. Which is a kind of an interesting notion that the teacher initiates that and then the child in turn repeats it or has conversation with other children. Second one is the one that I keep looking at. The children gain confidence in communicating with each other, to solve problems, to use new vocabulary, to work on the project. And then they learn to work together. So there was some overcoming of language barriers. They had new skills and ways to support one another to make their ideals real.
And you know, if you want to read this article, we have it in our reference section. So when you conclude a module, go find it and read the whole article. It's pretty impressive what they found out. But let's look and see what our KWL chart now looks like.
Well, we looked at what do we know and what do we want to know, and this says what did we learn. Anything can go on a pizza.
That's amazing. Even a pineapple.
You need water and flour to make pizza dough. Okay. You can eat pizza away from home and in a pizza restaurant. And you can call and order a large pizza for a lot of people. Wow, what a lot of things to learn.
That is so interesting. So this was our pizza project. Let's look at something else. Here are some other examples.
So this is
they can be about anything.
Yeah, okay.
They can be about anything. Anything that the children are interested in. And you see here that project learning occurs indoors and outdoors on the playground. You see that they are everywhere. And you see that on all these pictures they are actively involved.
And that's the key. This is an action-oriented idea. So how to live those projects? Let's give a couple of other examples. Here's one about winter. It was a project about winter that I actually observed in this classroom. They actually had what they called a learning box, that in it had a toboggan and some gloves, and the kids would try on the hat and try on the gloves. They had a temperature gauge that they kept in the window and a chart, and they would record. They kept it outside the window, and they would record the temperature readings for the day, and they kept a chart for that. So they had lots of fun with this, as you can tell from that picture. They made an igloo even, so they really carried winter in real depth.
And I wonder, since we're asking you for ideas or your reflection, write for a moment a few things down that your children in your classroom could be doing here, or what you could add to this to make it an interesting project for your children in your classroom. We're just going to pause for a moment before we move on. So Bobby gave you a lot of ideas, and you probably generated even more. Wow, what is it about learning in the world community within classroom routines?
Now remember, we're talking about 21st century life skills, flexibility, relationships, leadership, all those kind of things. So look at this, and this is talking about young children encountering peers in their classroom who their racial or cultural backgrounds differ from their own. Talking about unfolding in your daily practices some global awareness practices, cultural traditions, holidays, foods, and remember, we're talking about way just beyond holidays and foods. But looking at decorating with art forms from other countries, eating with your fingers, eating with chopsticks. The important point is for children to engage in those global practices, is for them to understand that people around the world eat, dress, play games, and experience storytelling in different ways.
And this, Bobby, is where it is extremely important that you help children learn about cultures of their own family and the families of the children in their classroom. And let's look at a couple of pictures here that are examples, and then you can think of all kinds of other things, and at any time you can pause the PowerPoint and actually write in your journal. So, oh, look at that.
Eating with chopsticks.
Now that is so cool, but this child is actually also learning some real critical skills. Look, this is learning about other ways you can pick up food.
That's fine motor, yeah.
And then actually practicing that. Look at his little fingers and how he's trying to do that. And look at how he has to coordinate to bring that food from your plate to your mouth. And that is coordination, Bobby.
Not only that, but realizing that people eat like this every day in some places. That's a fascinating thing to learn. But the fact that he's accomplishing that makes him even feel more confident. Have you thought about bringing chopsticks into your dramatic play area in your classroom? Give it a thought.
Yeah, you can get them everywhere, in a Chinese restaurant or Vietnamese restaurant or a Thai restaurant for free, and take them to your classroom and put them into dramatic play. And here is another example where a teacher made a whole unit or project out of food tasting, and the kids got really interested in dim sum. And so she had a book, she had an actual family come in to talk about their tradition eating dim sum and which country that was from. And then she set up a center where they could pretend to eat dim sum, and based on the real experience with the family, they could then also document their choices after they had tasted it and then pretend tasted it again. They could mark what it was they liked. And so the kids were extremely interested into that. So, you know, again, it is very important that we help children to document their own learning, because that is really why we're doing all of this, so that they do learn and find a way to document their own learning. And we also want to give you an opportunity to look at some additional projects that we have in the link on this page. It's a separate PowerPoint of projects. One is about camping and one is about construction. We want you to just go and look. And then after that, come join us for part C of question 4. And in that part, we will be answering how the teacher performance and the teacher standards are also linked to what you do in the classroom.